Welcome back. Today I'm going to be making a custom 5x5 mini album, and I'm rounding the corners of all my sheets. And my first sheet is actually acrylic, and I've removed the protective covering so that I can stamp on it. This is a beach themed stamp set from Ink and Dinkadoo, and I'm using Versamark ink, watermark ink pad, which is very good for stamping on acrylic if you want to emboss, because it's very sticky and so your stuff doesn't slide around. The embossing powder kind of stuck to my acrylic cover in places where I didn't want it, so I'm very lightly, with a soft bristled brush, just removing the excess. When you're embossing acrylic, you need to make sure to get your heat gun really hot. That way you spend as little time melting the powder as possible, and that will help keep your acrylic from melting and warping and ruining your project. Okay, so now I'm just deciding what stamp I want to have in the corner, and I've laid the acrylic over the paper that's going to back it. And to cut down on the static problem I had previously, I rubbed it with an anti-static bag, which is just a felt bag filled with cornstarch. Just flicking off the excess embossing powder. And reheating the embossing gun. And just remember, the heat tool, make sure it's very, very hot. So you want to spend as little time aiming it at the acrylic as possible. So now my cover is finished, the acrylic part of the cover. So I'm now going to be putting down the first chipboard cover, which you'll see through the acrylic cover. And so I'm going to cover this piece of chipboard in some Heidi Grace beach paper from Fiskars. And I'm going to be using Colorbox Fluid Chalk Lime Pastel throughout this entire album to ink the edges. So I got a makeup sponge and ink the edges. And now I'm putting down a label sticker on the cover, and I'm just lining it up on my mat so I can center it. And this is where I'm going to put my title. I'm going to be using American Crafts thickers for my title, which is Beach. And these are the vinyl thickers, which I love because they give great texture, but I have to say that the adhesive on them is absolutely terrible, and they won't stick to anything. So I always put glossy accents on the back of these letters when I'm using them on my projects, and they stick just fine after that. There's a close-up. You can see the inked edges and the beautiful paper and the fun title, and that's what it looks like when the acrylic sheet is over top of it. And now I'm going to get started on this next layout. This will be page 1 and 2 of the album. Pages 1 and 2 have a smaller page that is in between them. It's 2 inches by 5 inches, and I'm decorating it so that it can act as a journaling spot. I'm putting a buff colored paper with a very light stripe running through it on a green gingham paper, and then I'm going to adhere that to the 2 inch by 5 inch piece of chipboard. And that is going to be the journaling, some journaling for this page. Just trimming the edges now. And now I'm going to round the corners of the small chipboard mini page. I'm punching the holes with my crocodile. And now I'm going to ink the edges in lime pastel. And I'm using a makeup sponge as an applicator, which gives me a softer inked edge than if I had taken that pad directly to the paper. And it also keeps my pad looking nice and from getting chewed up by the chipboard, which can actually tear your ink pad and make it all grungy and nasty. Doing some more stamping from that same Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo set. This is a sort of a collage of shells. And I'm going to stamp it in Versamark watermark ink. And I'm going to cover it with white ultrafine embossing enamel. Just tapping off the excess. And now I'm going to heat it. You can see it changing. And that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to speed it up and show you the other side, which I'm going to stamp with the same shell collage, and which I will also be embossing with the white embossing powder. So now I'm going to do page 1, which is the back of the front cover. I'm going to stick down this paper, which is also from Heidi Grace. Has these great orange fish in it that are a nice pop of color. I'm going to ink the edges in the lime pastel using my makeup sponge. And there I did the other page, page 2 as well. I have this journaling sticker, also from Heidi Grace, that I'm backing on a sand-colored cardstock, just to give it a little bit more strength. And I'm going to trim it out, and I'm going to use my 1/16 inch hole punch to punch a hole in each of the 4 corners, which I'm going to decorate with a copper metallic brad. And then when I'm done putting down the feet of the brad, or the prongs of the brad, I'm going to cover the back in dimensional adhesive. So I'm just putting down my pop dots. These are from ThermoWeb. These are my thicker pop dots. And I'm just going to remove the backing, and I'm going to put this on page 2, which is the right side of this layout. And now I'm preparing a journaling spot to go beneath a photo mat, and this is going to be on the left side of the page. So I'm taking some scenic route lined notebook paper. I'm matting it on a green cardstock and then on a an orange cardstock. And this photo mat is 2 1/4 by 3 1/4 in size. And I'm just putting a rub-on in between the journaling spot and the photo mat. This rub-on is from Heidi Grace as well. And I have punched half of a circle of scenic route grid paper with one of my large Marvy Udashita punches. And I'm just inking the edge in the lime green pastel. And I'm going to be adhering it to the right side of the page underneath the journaling spot. That will finish up this layout, so stay tuned for part 2 to see more of this album coming together.